is going to be an exciting show because there are things that I am seeing seeing things happen in people's lives that's really impacting their ability to step into their greatness. And again, like I said, I am not a motivational person. Not a big fan of it because it doesn't work. And the reason I mean by that is like, so just imagine how that would work. If you're not checking or reading the gauges of your car, and all of a sudden a light comes on your car, like what they call an idiot light, and you don't pay attention to that, and you just try to use positive thinking and motivate, and like this isn't really happening, and just being, this is like, what do they call it? An optimistic bias, right? You're not actually paying attention to what's happening, right? And see, what happens is sometimes we will be optimistic because we don't want to face the very thing that we believe is going to cause us to feel disappointment, right? So I'm here to tell you that motivation doesn't work. It'll get you to a certain point without a doubt, right? Like I would much rather be in a motivational or positive environment than one that is negative all day long. Absolutely, right? It'll only get you so far because the programs are what is actually running. Hey, it's good to see you. I appreciate you being here, everybody. Please tell me where you're checking in from. Like I'm starting to see people come in. That is awesome. Tell me where you're checking in from. Also, let us know if you're watching this replay or if you're watching this live. I'd greatly appreciate that. But see, the thing that people, this has been my journey, so I can say it all day long, got lots of experience in this. The thing, like I've been studying Napoleon Hill, again, a lot. I think I've read Think and Grow Rich probably 300 times. I've really, really studied that book because there's a lot, like it's probably the book that is responsible for more millionaires than anything else. So I'm going through this law of success because I'm going to be adding this as a bonus in the ROI Accelerator Challenge. If you haven't signed up for the ROI Accelerator Challenge, get over there and sign up for it. Like this is going to be the best work I've ever done, ever. And I've taught many, many, many classes, have lots of students that have had lots of results. And this is going to be the best class I've ever done. And there's going to be an influencing aspect of this thing that will teach you to stand into your greatness and be able to impact people in a way that's going to make you captivating, right? So get over to the ROIAcceleratorChallenge.com. I'm going to be talking about that a couple different times. But understanding, so I'm doing this law of success. I'm going back through it. And if you sign up for the VIP, you're going to get this course that I'm actually creating right now. The thing that surprised Napoleon Hill more than anything, it's the same thing that I've talked about many, many times, right, is that the thing that surprised Napoleon Hill more than anything else is people's inability to get honest about their inadequacies. The thing that has surprised Napoleon Hill more than anything, and I think Napoleon Hill interviewed like 16,000 people, studied like like an insane amount of people. And he said the thing that surprised him more than anything is people's inability to get honest about their inadequacies. See, we don't want to get in touch with our inadequacies because we judge them. Yes, cool. Appreciate you being here. Awesome, Kim. I appreciate that. Yes, like, so really, really important that you read that book. The other part that's really, really important, should women be respected? Absolutely. Everybody should be respected. So looking at what is it that keeps you from looking at the parts that you need to look at so that you can accelerate through what it is. Like I did a live on TikTok today, and this is the very thing that I talked about, is what determines how fast you accelerate through something is your resistance to it, right? And see, the reason we have resistance is because of how we hold space for the very things within ourselves, okay? And we, like, I'm going through another threshold, and I'm going to be completely transparent with you. This is why I'm just going to be real tonight, because my whole journey, I'll share a story with you. So there was one day, and if you've been on a number of my shows, you probably heard this story before, but this is going to be another representation of how this plays out and how it's played out in my life, right? And that is the day that I seen this quote, heard it many times, and then one day it just landed. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is profound. And it is. The quote says, you can have everything you want by helping other people get what they want. Okay. And I was like, wow, what if I focused on creating results for people rather than me focusing on my limitations and the thing that keeps me from stepping into my greatness? What if? Like, what if? And so I started doing that, and then I got into, and I wrote my potential or my purpose statement and all these different things and strategies that has kept me moving forward. And every time I do that, it ends up taking me to another set of thresholds, and these other set of thresholds are the very things that have been keeping me playing at a smaller level. Okay. This is why I say what determines how fast we accelerate through something is the things that we avoid looking at, right? And the reason we avoid looking at them is because of how we characterize our smaller self. Okay. This is super, super, super important. So I'm going through a threshold right now. And every time you level up and you expand into new versions of who you are, either your income, either relationship status change, like whatever it is, you start stepping up into and you expanding into a more version of who you are, more extraordinary version of who you are. You're going to get in touch with stuff that has kept you playing small previously. Okay. And it is your resistance to it that determines how fast you expand. So think of it this way. Think about all these gifts that you've had in this life, all these wonderful opportunities. And there's parts within these experiences that you don't want to re-experience, right? And understand that there's levels of consciousness. I've talked about this many, many, many times, right? But the lowest level of consciousness is shame, right? And if we don't address this and learn how it shows up, then we are going to be listening to voices that is very invested into us staying small, okay? That is very invested into us playing small. Right? Understand, friends, darkness is real. I'm not here to debate that. Darkness is real and darkness has strategies. And see, when you start moving, shame's got to darkness has got to go, oh crap, he's moving. We got to start doing some things so that we can hang on to him so that this person doesn't step into the greater version of who they are, because when they step in the greater version of who they are, we're going to lose control of them. Right? So this is super, super important. And the thing that keeps us in shame is humiliation. Right? So then what we end up doing, friend, I'm going to drop some, like everybody on TikTok, if you could share this live with some other people, because I'm going to be dropping some really, really, really powerful stuff here. So if you could share that with everybody else, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. That'd mean a lot to me. What ends up happening is that we end up becoming the perpetrator of when we were victimized before. Let me explain that. Okay. So I've been working with this coach that I have for like off and on for probably 6 years now. We've been working consistently now for almost 3 years, right? Amazing, amazing, amazing coach, right? Like the old boy does actually, I think he's about 10 years younger than I am, right? But he's been through it and he's had some amazing things happen and stuff like that. So again, it's a divine connection, how we ended up meeting. I actually met him when I had a dark witch living in the house. Okay. And I was praying my butt off and going, holy God, how do I get out of this? And then boom, some emails ended up happening. Oh, I got some roses. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Started praying and just like, boom, the next thing I know, this, like, there's a long, long, long story, but I ended up bought a course from somebody, ended up going through the course. The guy said some things that really related with me, started looking for him, couldn't find him. And then one day, boom, pops up in my email box. And he's like, hey, and I'm like, holy crap. And I remember very clearly God telling me, tell him that I'm supposed to be working with you. And he replies back and says, I only deal with people that work in truth. And I'm like, that's exactly why I'm supposed to be working with you. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that. That means the world to me. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And see, the reason that related with me so well is because like 32 years ago, I started reading this book. And in this book, it says, live a life that demands rigorous honesty. Live a life that demands rigorous honesty. So what if you started looking at your life, the quality of your life is literally a reflection of how honest you get with yourself. Now, this is the part I'm going to apologize, because getting honest with yourself is like the most transformational thing that you ever do. And when I say transformational, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to be liberated and things are going to be great and I'm going to be able to manifest and all this stuff. When I say transformation, it is literally like, think about what a caterpillar, like a friend of mine shared this with me the other day, and I was like, wow, that's profound. A caterpillar creates a cocoon that it never leaves. Like, think about that. A caterpillar creates a cocoon that it never leaves, right? It has to become a butterfly to destroy the cocoon that the caterpillar created. Okay. So think about that. You have to become a different version of who you are, which requires letting the old you die. Not all of you. This is the other part that's really important. Not all of you, but the parts of you that are not aligned with the parts that you get to be when you step into a different level. Just like Einstein says, and I can't remember it verbatim, I'm going to paraphrase it, but you cannot see the solution with the level of consciousness that created the problem. Okay. So what that means is we have to be able to look at ourselves and go, okay, cool. What parts of me have I judged What parts of me do I regret? What parts of me do I abuse? Right? See, what happens is when we're humiliated, okay? And this is why I love working with entrepreneurs. This is why I love working with entrepreneurs and coaches and creators and things like that. Let me be clear with that. I am loving all the roses. I appreciate that so much. This is why I love doing it, is because these are people that are always into expanding who they are. And anytime anybody expands who they are, it's going to bring up the shadow. It's going to bring up the things that has kept us playing small, right? The shadow is like the anti-self, right? It's a part of us that we want to push away and not experience, right? But understand, when we had these wounds happen to us, somebody victimized us, right? Whatever it means. Like, you could have been not just humiliated, but humiliated in a classroom, abandoned from your parents, abused by your parents, whatever, like whatever type of trauma you've experienced as a child. Like, they're doing a lot of research on just how traumatic being born is on a human. Like, how many of us would have signed up for that if we'd had a choice in that? Like, oh my gosh, like, you want me to do what? Like, just understand, friends, you've been through way more than what you think you have, right? So looking at that, and then what we end up doing when we are traumatized, we are rejected. So like, now we are separated from our wholeness, right? And what causes that is being abandoned, however that means, like being humiliated. Okay, so let me give you an example. When I was in kindergarten, I remember this just like it was yesterday, right? It was a very, very humiliating experience, right? And in context of what was going on in my house, which was, we had unwanted guests like drug addiction and alcoholism and craziness and all kinds of stuff, right? And so, yes, I appreciate that. Every time I catch one of your videos, it always opens up my eyes. Cool. Glad you're here. Super glad you're here. So think about this. So teacher says, I want you to sound out the letter A. And of course, she called on me, right? I got to be the first one that took a shot at this, right? And that's a great question. I'm going to address that one here in a minute. Somebody asked, what is the best route to let go of your ego? Yeah, I'll address that. So anyway, I said apple, right? And I didn't understand the question completely. And some of that has been a strategy for me that I just had a breakthrough telling you that story. And what I did is she said, make the sound of it A. I said apple, right? Like instead of I said and pronounced it. The whole class laughed at me. And in that moment, I wanted to dig a hole in the ground and bury myself and disappear. Like, I just felt completely rejected from my entire class, right? Because I didn't have the conscious ability to understand what was really going on. Our conscious mind doesn't even start coming on the freaking playing field until about 7, 8 years old, right? So that's why it's so important for us to be able to hold space for the decisions and the experiences that we had when we were younger, because we didn't have the development to really understand what was going on. As friends, understand, our subconscious mind takes everything personal. Our subconscious takes everything personal, right? So in that moment, I took it with personal, like there's something wrong with me, right? Like I'm an idiot. Like I can't pronounce A correctly, right? Like I remember, like I can tell you story after story, right? But it's understanding I'm the one that created the narrative and the meaning out of that experience. Right now, I had some other things happen in my life that aligned with what it was that I believed was possible out of that, right? Good Lord, I'm up to 1,100 likes. Oh, you guys are so awesome. What we are talking about is expanding your life beyond your wildest imagination. That's what we're talking about. So out of that, what we end up doing, because that has so much emotional charge to it, what we want to do is the very thing that created it. So we start judging that part of us. I wish that wouldn't have happened. I don't like that part of me. I'm never going to stand up in front of people. I'm not ever going to raise my hand, because when I raise my hand, and if I don't get the answer right, I'm going to experience the same thing I experienced before. This is the very thing that keeps us playing small, because we don't want to relive something that happened in the past. And then we project it out into the future. And that's what we are avoiding happening, right? But what if we really look at understanding that at that time, that is not who I am today. Right now, is this part of me? Absolutely. Totally. Absolutely. Right. So how much grace do you hold for yourself about the experiences that you went through that caused you trauma? How much grace do you hold for that? Because see, again, like we get rejected. What is the narrative that you make that mean? And see, friends, I'm going to, preach for a minute. I feel a preaching coming on me, right? This whole thing about participation trophies is setting up a freaking crap show that's going to cause, so I'm serious. I don't want to speak it out, but it's going to be true. People are not going to know how to lose. They're not going to know how to lose. And that is not an accurate strategy to have people go out into life, because life is life. Life is going to punch you in the mouth so hard sometimes. And if you don't know how to get back up, guess what you're going to do? Can't handle it. Got to check out. Or I got to be freaking medicated with drugs so bad that I can't even function, right? I get like some of it. Why they did it is because, yes, there's bullies on the playground, and we all have had our experiences with bullies. I know I certainly have, and I have been a bully, right? To be completely transparent. But understanding, yes, I absolutely agree that everybody needs to be acknowledged, without a doubt. Everybody needs to be acknowledged, okay? And they need to be taught how to lose. Because if you don't know how to lose, what's going to happen when you get passed over for a job promotion? What are you going to do when your partner decides to leave you? What are you going to do when you get laid off? Right? What are you going to do when somebody passes away in your life? Like, what are you going to do when life shows up? You're not going to know how to handle this, right? So this is what they want to teach us, is not what they do is they don't look at the root of the problem. What they do is they want to put a Band-Aid over the top of it and make everybody accept the person that can't handle things, right? Oh my gosh, that is like, that's crazy, right? And so the reason I'm sharing this with you is because when I get triggered, like when I used to get triggered, I spent this is why I drank. I drank like a crazy man. Like, if you'd have seen me back when I was 13, 14 years old, I was falling down drunk, just absolutely obliterated, right? And the reason I was that way is because I couldn't deal with all the pain that was inside of me. I could not deal with all the pain that was inside of me. So what I did is I medicated it, did it through drugs and alcohol, right? Until I was 19 years old. And then I almost ended my sister's life as a result of that. And then I went, oh my gosh, I have got to really change. Hey, it's good to see you. Appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Fantastic 50. Yes, you need to follow her. She's got great content. So really understanding that it is the triggers, it is the things that we want to avoid that is our superpower. Because you learning how to move through that is going to take the power away from anybody else, right? Because if we, like in this book that I read, Live a Life That Demands Rigorous Honesty, it also says we give people the power to kill. We give people the power to kill if we do not have the ability to love. Here's the secret: to love into the pain. We are the only person we spend every moment of our lives with. We're the only person we spend every moment of our life with, right? So somebody asked a great question over on Instagram. It says, what is the best route to let our ego die? Time's a great one, right? And the other part of it, and that's a great question, is asking ourselves, is this the ego, right? Because our ego will create a facade, right? And our facade is what we believe we have to hide behind in order for us to be accepted. But this is the way our higher self works. Our higher self is going to put us in situations that's going to humble us. I got a PhD in that one. Still at times think that I've got this thing down. It's like, woohoo, I'm going to show up and wham, here I go. Here's another lesson. The initiation is the catalyst for us to let go of the things that hold us back, right? And really being able, some fantastic 50 says there's a huge power in growth when you can recycle the pain. Absolutely. See what happens is we have this pain inside of us, and our ego goes. So here's how our ego works. I'll teach this real quick. Our ego says, okay, and I'm going to make the distinction between first-hand belief and second-hand belief. Okay, so we are told as a child, do not put your hand on the burner. Do not put your hand on the burner. Do not put your hand on the burner. At that point, it's a second-hand belief. Okay, somebody told us. We have not experienced the pain yet, right? Like they're saying, don't do it because it's going to hurt. Okay, and then one day we put our hand on the burner. Whoo! Whoa, that's hot, right? Now it becomes a first-hand belief because now I've experienced it, right? But our ego makes up this decision and going, pain, sear it, never deal with it again, right? Never deal with it again. And I appreciate you being invited on the show. I'd love to have you, but I'm actually going to be wrapping this up here in a little bit. So what happens is we have an experience in pain. Example, me signing out the letter A, right? We have this painful experience and our ego goes, don't ever have that happen again. Don't ever have that happen again. See, our ego is not we've heard people saying our ego is not our amigo. Well, actually, our ego does serve us in a certain way. And there's two different types of ego. There's the ego with the capital E and there's the little ego, right? And understanding that our ego wants to protect us. It creates this mask that we feel that we have to be in order for us to find acceptance, right? But when we're doing that, we are literally trying to control the outcome. And this is where a true friend, this is what I believe is a true friend, a true partner, that they care enough about me that they are going to show up and be completely authentic with me so that I get the opportunity to address whatever is causing the friction between us, right? That is the types of relationships that I want. Because if you just peace out and leave and don't tell me what was actually the reason you left the relationship, then I'm being disrespected and so are you. Right? So it's super important. Like if you really care about somebody, then you're going to be willing to be vulnerable with that person. And then how they handle what it is that you share with them is the opportunity for you to decide, okay, cool. What develops trust, my friend? What develops trust? Right? What develops trust is consistency. But see, here's the other part. What determines if you can trust somebody? What determines if you can trust somebody? This is a really important question. What determines if you can trust somebody, right? You have to trust your ability to trust yourself because you are the one that's making the distinction of whether this person is trustworthy or not. So who can you trust if you don't trust yourself? Who can you trust if you don't trust yourself? And see, what happens is we get all these wonderful opportunities to go through these training things, initiations, painful experiences. See, friends, just understand we're electromagnetic beings. We are going to attract into our lives the very things that we need to let go of so that we can step into the higher version of who we are, right? But your ability, the outcome is going to be a reflection of what you're able to overcome, right? And so the more you trust your ability to move through these painful experiences and understand you are the narrator of all the things that you experience. See, the pain isn't what's outside of there. The pain is how we talk to ourselves about the experience. Right? Like if I got rejected, oh, you worthless piece of garbage, you're not ever going to get this right. Why do you even try? These people are so mean and women are just awful and blah, blah, blah. That's going to be a painful conversation. That's going to be a painful conversation. I'm not even going to reach out to somebody because they're going to be too busy and they're going to reject me anyway. Like this is how we show up and this is how we talk to ourselves. And this is in the vibration of guilt and shame and fear and things like that. Okay. So it's really, really important for us to learn and get in touch with this conversation that we're having with ourselves and get honest about it. Get really, really honest about it because the best thing, I think it's in the Art of War, where it says something along the lines of, you must know your enemy. You must know your enemy. And darkness is your enemy, my friend. And so you have to be very well aware of the strategies that darkness uses. A book I'd recommend, two books I'll recommend everybody read. First one is Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Like his wife would not publish that book until after she had passed. Napoleon passed a long time ago. She wouldn't let that book be published until she left, right? Because powerful book. The other one is Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis. Right. So I hope that answers your question. There's a number of ways that you can do that. Like there's shamanic medicine, there's meditation, there's coaching. Like here's a great way. This is one of the things that my clients don't like it so much, but I think it's so important for us to have this, right? Is having somebody in our lives that will give us authentic feedback. That will give us authentic feedback of how you're showing up. This is one of the greatest ways for us to deal with our ego because, see, we don't see ourselves in the picture, right? And how we are the ones that are part of, like, as I am, so it is, which means I am the creator of my life. Like how I show up in these experiences is going to determine what is created and what other people experience within that as well. And it took me a long time to really get in touch with how I showed up. And I was so wounded. I mean, I'm a big guy, 6'2", little, 220 pounds. And I used to have this look on my face. Don't you dare come near me. Right. And so then I go, why is nobody wanting to come around me? Why isn't people opening up to me? Why don't people trust me? Because I look like I was going to rip somebody's head off. I think there's a phrase that women call resting bitch face. I was like, yeah. Right. And so I was an iron coated marshmallow. And because of that, I just kept getting wounded more and more and more, right? So I had to start looking at what is it that's going on inside of me that's creating these kind of situations. And so I had to start softening up, had to start getting in touch with my feminine side, right? I had to, like, this was one of the ones that was super, super difficult for me. This was probably the most difficult thing for me to ever admit in my life. Are you ready? Like, this is the thing I'm going to say. I'm asking for forgiveness, right? I am an empath, and I am highly, highly sensitive. I'm highly sensitive, right? And I used to look at sensitivity as a weakness. Now it's my superpower because my sensitivity, I'm very intuitional. I can read somebody pretty well, right? Like, this is what I do. This is what I good to know you if you have, yeah, that right. And I still have people that I just love, right? Where people be, like, I'm sitting there studying or whatever, and I just look so intense. I'm like, dude, you're looking intense. Thanks, man. Appreciate it, brother. Right? Because I just get so engulfed into whatever it is that I'm doing, right? So I am super sensitive, right? And that has become my superpower now. And because of that, I'm able to see things within my clients that they're not even aware of, right? I've just really have been able to tap into that, because the other part of it too is what determines if we take a risk or not? What determines if we take a risk or not? Same sensitivity I thought was weakness. Yeah, it's really hard to work on. Yeah, yep, absolutely. Right? Our vulnerability is our superpower. Our vulnerability is our superpower, right? Like when when we live in our truth, write this one down, people. When we live in our truth, the results are going to be what they are supposed to be, not us trying to control it. Because if we're not being vulnerable, if we're not being authentic, if we're not being transparent, right? Like all these great words, guys, you guys all got to get over on TikTok. I want to follow me over there. There's TikTok's amazing. I love it. But if we're not being our authentic self, guess what we're doing? We are trying to control the outcome. We are trying to control the outcome. And that's where our insecurity comes in. And then we're operating inconsistently with who we are. We're not stepping in our agency when we're doing that, right? The more we step into our agency, the more we trust our ability, the more we're going to be able to show up at our true authentic self, and the results are going to be what they're supposed to be, right? So appreciate everybody being here. If you, I got to do my little banner thing. I have not done that yet. If you have not signed up for the ROIacceleratorchallenge.com, you need to get over there, right? This is going to be my best work that I have ever done, right? And like any of you that have worked with me in the past, you know, like when I bring it, I bring it. The thing I get accused of more than anything else is I way over deliver. I way over deliver, right? And with this one, yeah, I'm super excited because the R is for remember your superhuman ability. The O is for you optimizing your life so that it operates clearly, efficiently, and effectively. And the I is being able to influence in a way that captivates people's attention so that you can navigate them to be wherever you want them to be. If you have a gift to share with this world, if you have a gift, and we all do, at whatever level it is that you want to really do this, what I encourage you to do is to learn how to really stand in your power. Because us playing small, there are people out in this world that need your gift. And if I'm playing small, that means that somebody else is being denied what it is that I've went transformed through, like me coming from a caterpillar to a butterfly. Like there's a lot of lessons there that I've learned and been able to support other people in their journey as well. If I'm playing small, that denies somebody else that opportunity. Your challenges are somebody else's inspiration, friend. Understand that. Right. So I appreciate each and every one of you be there. Thank you so much for signing up. That's awesome, Kimberly. Appreciate that. Everybody have a great evening. Appreciate you being here. Be sure to check in on same time on Thursday. If you're not following me on TikTok, get over on TikTok because I do lives throughout the day over there, and pretty much every day I'm doing lives over there now. So I appreciate it. And like I love TikTok. Amazing things going on there. So everybody, love you. Appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. You're amazing. I just appreciate you and every one of you. Much love. Be blessed. And always live like your life depends on it because it does, my friend. Be blessed. Have a great night.